大家靜坐2分鐘到啦，OK？
佢哋記得講英文喎。
哦，OK，英文點樣講嘅應該？Let's just sit tight for 2 minutes. I was speaking Cantonese. I forgot this is the English session. Okay, so let's just sit quietly for 2 minutes. Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome to our English session, which we have every first Wednesday of the month. So today is November 1st. And welcome, Venerable De Hong. Thank you for taking the time out to give us a Dharma talk and also to lead us in a meditation. So let me go ahead and give the control to Venerable De Hong.
Thank you. Good evening. So tonight we'll be talking about the some of the principles of healing. And so last month, October, we had a conversation on trauma, some of the issues, the symptoms, and what the experts, the doctor, the psychiatrist, the doctors said about trauma. Tonight, I will present to you guys some of the different approaches to address, to process your trauma, and how you can heal from your trauma. Some of the prevalent medical professionals, doctors, psychiatrists, Dr. Nadine Burke-Harris, Dr. Basil Vanderkolk, who wrote the book The Body Keeps a Score, Dr. Gabor Mate, and also present my own perspective. Just quickly, I'm sorry about my nephew's iPad. Give me a second. Let me mute it. I'm sorry. I apologize. There is an article from the Cleveland Clinic that present 4 steps on how to heal from trauma. The first one is seek proper therapy, learn your triggers, try guided meditation, and practice self-care. And if you are looking for a therapist, you can go to psychologytoday.com and find a therapist in your area. If you have health insurance, some of your health insurance plan may cover it. If not, the cost per session, which is an hour, is about $100 to $150. So I begin with Dr. Nadine Burke-Harris in her book, The Deep as Well. She called it to heal from trauma. She called it the prescription. And she said, she recommends psychotherapy, which is a form in which the therapist and the patients, learn about trauma and how to intervene or disrupt some of the symptoms and also the behavior. One of the best approaches that she discusses the integrated behavior healthcare. It's a practice that has been pretty popular, especially supported by the US Department of Health and Human Services. What it does is basically it blends the care in one setting for medical conditions as well as behavior health factors that affect our physical health and our mental health, which, in a way deals with the whole person approach. Another form of therapy is child parent psychotherapy, CPP, which focus focuses on the care on the conversation between the child and the parent. Basically, is the recognition that real, genuine conversations with kids about trauma, how trauma is affecting them and their families. Even when kids are really little, it is very, very critical. When both parents could talk about trauma openly and honestly, um, the parents' own childhood, it can really help build the relationship. Otherwise, it's going to hinder or affect the relationship between the parent and the child. And she call it, with trauma, she call it speak the unspeakable. Um, and it helped to recognize the triggers just so that the parent and the child can manage the symptoms. The symptoms here refer to the PTSD symptoms. Another approach is exercise. Exercise helps with our cardiovascular health and also affects our brain as well. And another one, of course, which is really important, is meditation. And here she did present or share some of the studies and reports on the results or effects of meditation, how meditation can improve the person's or the individual's quality of life. Um, Meditation has been proven to decrease the cortisol levels, enhances healthy sleep, and improves immune function, decreases inflammation. It Why, with stress or trauma or triggers can activate the flight system, which is, the window of tolerance. Meditation can help ease or expand the window of tolerance. And that's a key. So those were the different practices by Dr. Nadine Burke-Harris, from therapy to exercise to meditation. Therapy, in terms of therapy, talking about trauma is the key. Now I'm switching over to Dr. Bessel van der Kolk's book, The Body Keeps a Score, in which he spent a few chapters on addressing and healing from trauma. And in his view, in order for us to address or to heal from trauma, we need to revisit, meaning we need to go back or reflect on what happened to us. It can be painful. It can trigger your fight or freeze or flight system. So you just want to make sure that when you go back and visit the past trauma, you will not be re-traumatized. If you noticed that you froze or you become restless, then stop right there. You don't want to continue and be re-traumatized. And also, we can train our arousal system, basically our window of tolerance by breathing and meditation, by chanting or repeating or doing, certain prayers. I recommend that you guys read Tina Turner's book, Happiness Becomes You. She suffered a lot of trauma in her childhood through her marriage into adulthood, and in which she discussed, and Tina Turner was raised Baptist and she became Buddhist, and she used the practice of chanting. That's why I recommend that you guys you read that book if you can. And then movements, yoga, tai chi, qigong. A lot of this can help us to revisit our trauma and regulate the emotions in our body, that the emotions that have been stored in our body. And these practices have been done in China and India for thousands of years. However, in Western, in particular American mainstream culture, they are considered alternative, or they are being looked at with suspicion. Um, the more, when you practice breathing, when you are able to be fully 100% present with the breath, you'll be able to ease the mind and not react to what's going on in your mind. And at the core of the recovery, and through meditation, through breathing, through yoga or other movements, is this what we call self-awareness. And actually, mindfulness is self-awareness, because with self-awareness, we are in touch with our feelings, thoughts, perception that are constantly changing. And also, when we pay attention to our bodily sensation, we can recognize the ebb and flow of our emotions, and which gives us the ability to control them. Let's say you feel, when you are under a lot of stress, you feel tightness in your chest area, or you feel the tension, the tightness in your neck and shoulders, or something is not right in your abdomen or in your tummy after you eat, your lower back. All of this may have something to do with your past traumatic experiences that you may not be aware of. But it's just that when you are under a lot of stress, these symptoms come up in your body. And again, this is from Dr. Bessel van der Kolk. I'm just reading the green highlight uh, part of this. Is that mindfulness has been shown to have a positive effect on numerous psychiatric, psychosomatic, and stress-related symptoms, including depression and chronic pain. And also with meditation and mindfulness practices can help decrease our reaction, which comes from our brain smoke detector, or what Dr. Bessel van der Kolk called the amygdala. In turn, it means that it decreases the triggers from our encounters with the environment. Then he went on to continue with a good support network through relationships. Because with relationship, when we reach out to, let's say, when we have a good relationship with family and friends, it helps us to feel safe. It also establishes our ability to tolerate and face and process the reality that we face, or when we are being triggered. And he also goes on to say, choose a professional therapist. Another thing that I'm drawing this in is a healthy sense of self. What happened is, for a kid who was traumatized, who was physically, emotionally, and sexually abused, who were constantly told that he or she was a nobody, so you may end up hating yourself. Myself is an example. I hated myself or some, I guess, for some 40 years that I didn't even realize. I wanted to do a lot of what we call cosmetic surgery, this and that, just because I thought there was something wrong with me, because my dad constantly told me that I was a nobody, that I was such a loser, and that, he constantly yelled, constantly hit me. So I felt like I was damaged. I did not like my appearance. So the healthy sense of self comes from this book as well. And it was phrased by a Buddhist teacher from Taiwan. She spent some 15 years teaching Buddhism, and she was trained in the Tibetan tradition. So if someone who was traumatized, thinking that he or she was damaged, work on that. You want to learn about your sense of self, and ultimately your healthy sense of self. Because in Buddhism, we have, the Buddha taught the not self topic, right? So you want to have, in order to understand the topic of not self, you want to have a healthy sense of self first, in order for you to understand what not self means. And then there is this healing power of community through music, through rhythms, through acting, in theater, in plays, aikido, dancing, kickboxing, you know, not to mention yoga, tai chi, and qigong. When we are acting, when we are hugging, is that we are in touch with our own emotions, and it helps to ease the excessive arousal in our body. The doctor I know of Dr. Peter Levine. He came up with this somatic therapy to help with the sexual abuse victims or rape victims. Then in chapter 14, again, talking about your trauma is at most important. The way to address, to face it, is to speak about it. You may not remember everything in sequence, or or you may remember it randomly, but it's good to talk about it. And what it means is that you have to break silence, no matter how much it hurts. For most of us, I don't want to say that you must talk about it, because for some people they cannot talk about it, which is understandable. But if you can, it definitely will help. Writing, art, drawing, coloring, puzzles, music, and dance are part of addressing trauma. Then there is this technique called EMDR, which I heard that is very expensive. I can only touch up here because I don't know much about it, but Dr. Bessel van der Kolk was trained in it. What it did is that it helped the um, traumatized individual to observe their experiences in a new way without verbal with another person. Then yoga. With yoga, it helps us to focus our attention on our breath as well as our movements, our hand movements, our or the sensations in our body. That's what yoga is, and I think there's a term called trauma informed yoga, which is really really popular now. And what it is that with the movements in yoga, it helps us to foster our emotional regulation. It helps us to pay attention to what's going on inside our body instead of ignoring it. That's the key. And when we are paying attention to the sensations in our body, and that's how it gives us the ability to be in control, and that's how we feel safe, and that's how we can talk about it. He also gave us, discussed a chapter on neurofeedback, which is what it is it measures a patient's brain waves and provide the patient with real-time feedback on how the brain is functioning. Then acting. And in terms of religion, he also brought up, in Catholic Mass, there were chanting. In Judaism, there is a lot of chanting as well. And certainly in Buddhism, as well as in Islam, where they perform prayer rituals 5 times a day. What it is that theater or the rituals, they give trauma survivors a chance to connect with one another by the experience in the common humanity. That's why you see in almost even in the Protestant church, the gospel music, the Catholic Church, the Gregorian chants, all of this help people to be in touch with the sensations, at the same time focus on the prayers or the chanting. I have to. I'm going to go quickly because it's 6:23. I'm sorry that I took longer. And then Dr. Gabor Mate on his discussion of some of the healing principle, and Dr. Gabor Mate cited, or he did study a lot of the Buddha's teaching, and in his view, the mind is the lead in terms of our behavior, our speech. The mind takes the lead. To him, healing is uh, the path to wholeness because when we suffer trauma, part of ourselves we ignore. So to heal, we pay attention to our whole body, all parts of this body. The other thing that he said is mental prison camp, meaning that when we were abused, when we suffer trauma, we kept saying, I'm a damaged being, I'm beyond hope of healing. To him, that's not helpful. And he also came on to discuss the 4 A's, the five compassions that help us to heal. I will read just the term. You guys can read this in my PowerPoint. Authenticity, agency, anger, acceptance, and then the five compassions: ordinary human compassion, the compassion of curiosity and understanding, compassion of recognition, compassion of truth, and compassion of possibility. I didn't have time to type this out. If you do need to read this, let me know. And to him, the goal of healing is to free ourselves from our automatic programming, meaning our reaction, and it gives us the ability to connect with what's going on inside us. Now, from the Buddhist perspective, from my experience volunteering in California state prisons in the past 10 years, I have gone through at least 10 prisons. Right now, I'm at four. I besides the 2 hour, the weekly or the monthly visit, I have been able to conduct day-long meditation with most of this prison. Um, I don't enforce silence because when a lot of these guys or the women they get together, they are able to talk truthfully, honestly. It gave them a chance to connect. So I did not tell them to say keep quiet. And usually I begin a day long with a prompt like, what do you like about yourself? For most of people who were traumatized, and also especially for folks inside the prison, they hate themselves. Like to tell them what they like, to ask them to share that, it was challenging for them. The format of the day was usually I start with the prompt and then we meditate for half an hour just to ease everyone into the mood. And then I gradually, in each session, I gradually increase by 10 minutes or so up to an hour, sometimes more than an hour. In between, we have 10 to 15-minute breaks for bathroom or for movements such as yoga or stretches. And in terms of the practices, I usually use the breathing meditation to start with, or the gratitude, and then body scan and concentration. And by then their minds are somewhat settled. Then I bring in loving kindness, compassion, and forgiveness. Um, here are some of my insights. Um, they are able to face their childhood traumatic experiences directly, to be present with them, or whatever that they did, they were able to face it. And at the end of the day long, or near the end, most of them have, at least half of them, both men and women, they broke down and cried just because they learn about their suffering. Forgiveness, forgiveness. There are three parts: forgiving people who hurt you, and for people that you have hurt, you have to ask them for forgiveness, and then forgiving yourself. And this is the hardest part for folks inside the prison, just because of what they did. So my advice to everyone is that if you suffer trauma, especially in your childhood years, it's important to seek help to process and just so that you can heal from it. There's no one formula in terms of addressing and healing. It's different for everyone, but it takes time and it takes patience. But you also need to be open to it. What matters is, your quality of life, be it at home with your family and friends, be it with, if you're working, your co-workers. So last week, for the past few months, we have been doing breathing meditation, body scan, the sense practice, and last month we did the window of tolerance. Tonight we are going to do the concentration meditation. What it is that no matter as you are sitting, no matter what happens, you focus on the breath. You can, if you can, ignore the thoughts. If you're not able to, just be aware that you might be triggered by a certain image, and then If it's overwhelming, then you need to stop. Okay. So that's all I have for tonight, and I'm gonna go ahead and go in with our meditation. Okay. So let's take a few deep breaths as you are adjusting your posture, whether you are sitting or lying down. As you breathe in, notice that your body may tense up a little bit because it takes some effort and some energy to fill your lungs with air. But when you breathe out, it takes no energy. And that's how you're able to relax your body. Granted that you let go of your thoughts, let go of your worry, your planning. Take as many deep breaths as you like to fully relax and regulate the energy in your body. When you are done, just breathe normally. Allow your body to settle. Start with a smile. Notice how you feel when you smile and how that feeling gives rise to the physiological sensations in your body. And know that both the feeling, the sensations are quickly fading away. How you feel next depends on your mind, your body, or what you do next. And if you don't feel like smiling, just notice the reluctance. Just because you are going through something, perhaps. Let's continue and do the sense door practice by noticing the environment around you or the spaces around you. The room temperature. And let's check in with all your all six of your senses, beginning with the mind. See how busy your mind is or restless above. Your feeling, your perception, your view, your attitude, your mood, all can be colored by what's going on in your mind. Then your sense of seeing, whether your eyes are open or closed. Your sense of hearing, knowing that you cannot turn off or shut down your hearing consciousness. Your sense of smell, your sense of taste. These four senses are at rest at the moment as you are meditating. Your mind could be at rest if it's not thinking, wandering, and producing thoughts. Then your sense of touch in the body, just being aware of the sensations, tension that are coming and going throughout your body or inside your body. This is the sense door practice. that helps you to stay grounded and center when you step into a different environment, so you don't easily get distracted or feel overwhelmed when you are being triggered. Let's do the body scan on your own for the next couple minutes. You can visualize as if you were standing in front of your body and just pay attention to your whole body and see what comes up and be present with it. It may be your forehead feeling tight. Perhaps you have been thinking. Perhaps the weather, your sinus. See if there is any tightness in your chest area or sensations in your tummy or your lower abdomen. Any tension in your neck and shoulders, your lower back, your hips, your knees, your ankles, your feet, your hands. When you do the body scan, it gives you a chance to be aware of the sensations and being mindful of what's going on inside your body as well as at the skin level. And this is how you take care of your physical health. Let's move on and practice concentration by bringing your attention to your breath. Concentration means that you focus on the breath, the in-breath and the out-breath, or the sensations at your nostrils as you breathe in and out. You still are aware of thoughts or noise in your surrounding, but you choose not to react to any of them. And that is the work of mindfulness. You actually cultivate mindfulness and concentration at the same time. They go together. It helps to smile, to give you a sense of alertness, and to make it interesting for your mind to stay with your breath longer, so it does not feel bored and disappears. As soon as you notice your mind wanders away or is lost in thoughts, patiently bring it back to the breath. No need to judge or criticize yourself. You also cultivate patience. Stay with the breath. If your mind is restless, meaning wandering from one place to another, then you can try to repeat a mantra or prayer, but stay with the breath. See how long your mind can stay with the breath. One breath, two breaths, or three. The longer your mind is able to stay with the breath, the stronger is your concentration, the deeper is your mindfulness or awareness. All the thoughts are going to come up because you have either suppressed or ignored them. So when you're meditating or even sitting around, they appear, seeking your attention. All you have to do is acknowledge each one and quickly let it go. And this is how you recognize how powerful your mind is. Don't react to any of the thoughts. Don't question. Don't judge. You are cultivating mindfulness, which is a non-reacting, non-judgmental awareness, a mental quality in your mind. You may notice the inner critic or the chattering mind. It keeps spilling out stories. You don't have to give it any attention. Just stay with the breath, or repeat your mantra, or do some chanting. Over time, you can silence the inner critic, the chattering mind. Just notice your tendency to react to the thoughts that come up. And see that these thoughts are not yours. They just come up randomly out of nowhere. And then they disappear into nowhere. And that's how the nature of your thoughts are, or anyone's. Be aware of the breath, the in breath, the out breath, or the sensations at your nostrils. When your mind is truly concentrated, you actually don't have to pay attention to the breath any longer. You do it naturally, but then, because you no longer are distracted by your own thought, by the thoughts or noise in your surrounding. Let's sit in silence for the next couple minutes. Let's check in with your mind, see how settled it is, how clear it is, perhaps less wandering, less reactive, less judging. Your feeling, your perception, your view, your attitude, your mood, all can be colored by what's going on in your mind, your emotion, your body, and the sensations in your body. Your qualities of mindfulness, concentration, patience, and your ability to be kind to yourself. All right. That's it. I'll see if you guys have any question. I can entertain your question.
Yeah, as I said before, I don't think that we might have that many questions. I think we have a lot of viewers on YouTube and Facebook, but Inside Coon and livecast on Inside Timer.
Okay.
I don't think that we have any question. I do have a question though. You mentioned I find it very interesting that you mentioned because of your work in the prison and your students, the individuals who are incarcerated, they're not used to that introspection, and because of their the environment that they're in, and also the way that they been suppressing their trauma.
Hmm.
Yeah. So can you elaborate on that? How do you? And then you said something about you have to kind of back off and not get them to um, and just let them relax. Is that
Oh, okay. Oh, so for most of them, in order to be prepared for the day-long meditation, most of them have meditate, with me, and then when it comes time to the day-long, they're able to sit with whatever because now they have 6 hours, right, to sit with the
mm-hmm,
body and the mind. So whatever that comes up, they are able to be present with it or to, if I may say, reconcile or address. And that is how you face a revisit, according to Dr. Basil Vanderkolk, you revisit your trauma, and that's how you watch it and have a better understanding if you when you are not reacting to that traumatic event.
mm-hmm.
And that's how they are able to have a better understanding the suffering or the trauma or the pain that they have suppressed. It can come up, but it was a pain, right? But they don't react to it. And so that's one thing. Second, they also have the ability to to be present with what they did. That they also, some of them cause suffering on
Mm-hmm,
the
mm-hmm.
victims. And that's how a lot of them broke down and cry. And it's because uh, they had 6 hours to 8 hours to do all of that.
I see. But what if um, these are the first time they're exposed to this environment for the first time? They just I can imagine going from a environment where um, they're subjected to violence and they have to protect themselves,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden they're in your environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Uh, mhm.
Okay. So of course, prison in for some level 3 and level 4, the high security prison, then yeah, there's violence, there's chaos, right? But even in maximum security prison that I went, and we stay inside the chapel or in one of the rooms where it is safe. The room is closed, so 10 of us or 20, we sat together. So we knew that nothing is going to happen. There's not going to be a fight. There's not going to be an attack. So that put so much of the fear and anxiety aside on that day.
Mhm.
And that's how they can be fully 100% present with this body and the mind and the thoughts that came up.
I think this is the part that intrigues a lot of people. They and then intrigues me too. When I was there in the prison for the first time, that
Yeah,
because most people would say, "Are there guards there? Are there guns? Like how do you are you behind a glass panel? They just it's unimaginable that we
yeah,
would be sitting among them, and yet they're completely different from what they would be if they were outside the chapel.
correct. They're completely different. And one thing I also want to bring up is that you have people from all ethnicities. You have Caucasian, you have African American, you have Latino, you have Native American, you have Asian, right? Now, in maximum security prison, you may have what we call the guard's tower, where you see a sign like shooting without notice. I went
Yes,
there, I
yes.
was there one time. I was in one institution one time, and I was like, it did not feel comfortable. When you see
Mm,
that sign shooting without notice, without warning,
yeah,
right?
without warning.
But
Yeah,
they could be, but the thing is, you have 8 people, 10 people who come in with one purpose is to understand themselves, to better themselves, to rehabilitate themselves. So but for most institutions there were no correctional officers. There were no outside people except me and the incarcerated sangha members. And the door is closed. Okay, even the building door, I have the key. But the door is closed. So definitely the feeling safe and secure is assumed, and if I may say guarantee, you know,
yeah, yeah.
it
It's
works.
actually guaranteed because that the time and space is
Yeah.
so important for them, and
Hmm.
it's their choice. They choose to be there,
Yeah.
and so they would do everything they can to protect you,
Yeah.
right?
Also, yeah. Correct.
Because they don't want to lose this.
Yeah, and correct, and there was something I lost my train of thought. It's safe, you know. Oh,
Mm,
no interruption, right? No one would just come
yeah,
in. Maybe if someone needed to go to medical or something, sometimes we have that. Then the officers may come in, but for the most part, when we have a memo, the whole institution knew about it. So
yeah,
we were left alone to be in the chapel or in one of the rooms where we spent from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. or 8 p.m.
yeah. I wonder. This is just a random thought. I wonder if it makes sense. I know you have some companion now. You have some people that you actually bring to the prison
Hmm.
as volunteers. I wonder if we could have a round table one of these days that talk about our experience because it actually it's hard for you to describe it because you're in and out so much now that everything becomes normal to you. But for some of us, who just are exposed to it, now it's time to actually share that experience. I wonder if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, we can, we'll see probably after the new year or something where I can see if I can find
It
a
doesn't
couple.
need to be. It doesn't need to be this time slot. It could be any
Yeah,
time slot.
sure.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. I think that would be good. I think that
Yeah,
would really open the eye um, for a lot of people who hasn't had that experience. And I think what I really want to get at is the fragility of humanity.
yeah,
That you can take a a person who had committed heinous crime, locked up in an environment where there's really no justice. They're just every day they're surviving, and yet you can take them to a different spot,
hmm,
and they could be very different. And then vice versa, you could take a person who's a normal school teacher, whatever, looks, and then just one day he snapped.
yeah. Correct. I just want to share one story. I don't think I shared this before. I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, there was one individual. He only can't meditate with me a few months, and then he asked me a question. He said he watched TV and people were crying, and all of a sudden he got tears in his eyes. To him, that was not normal. This is the prison, and so
We
he.
did talk about that, but I don't remember we did that in English or in Cantonese. That I
I
don't
think we
remember
did that in
which.
in Cantonese. I don't think we did that in
Okay,
English.
so that's it's yeah. Okay, so that was a story. It was a great
Yeah,
story.
correct.
Someone who's in the prison system who came to your meditation, and then after that experience decided that he all of a sudden he couldn't control his emotion, that
Tears. Yeah.
his tears, yeah, his compassion.
Correct. And like he didn't even feel comfortable speaking in a group. He had to talk to me in private. And it was like, well, because for him, he's in his 50s. He lived a life of drug and violence, so he never cried. And so I try to explain to him that because you feel the suffering of the person who was crying, and that you have empathy for them. You feel their
Hmm.
feeling, and that means that you have compassion for the person. And he was
Yeah, yeah,
puzzled by it.
yeah. This is the part that we're trying to explain to everyone that I did that last Saturday in my English class, and I said in some religion we talk about the shoulders, one shoulder having the devil and one shoulder having the angel.
Hmm.
And anything in Buddhism is similar, but a little bit different in that we ourselves are angels.
Hmm.
It's not like we have to choose between one or the other. Is that we ourselves are angels. We're fully capable in our core. It's just loving kindness, compassion, empathy, and equanimity. It's just that we've been protecting it, overprotecting it for so long, right?
Correct.
And so if we find ourselves in a situations where we're willing to put aside all that anger, all that fear, you know, and then that will come out. And when it first come out, we said, "Whoa, where did that come from?"
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, okay, so perfect, 1 hour. So thank you
Hmm.
so much.
Thank you.
I look forward to another English class. Hopefully by that time. Actually, I did solve the technical problem. I could have it on Insight Timer, except that by the time I solved the technical problem, it turns out that I needed 48 hours to actually schedule that event. So
Okay.
there you go.
All right.
Okay,
Good.
but I promise next month we'll be back to normal.
Okay.
So let
Okay.
me go ahead